looking down into the sea somewhere, but here the skies rise and the lights parade across the desert to the east. Rising in the canyon, a cacophony, coyotes with a spreading choir, spatial affirmation of the date. It's a desert celebration. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. The swallow's pure elation. Searching high, seeking out my centerpiece. Orion's timeless gaze, my feet upon the earth, my spirit flies. It's a desert celebration. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. The swallow's pure elation. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night. Stars and moonlit skies dancing in the night.
All right, welcome to, this is Radio Memphis Progtime, kind of. We have Randy George and his wife. Is Patricia correct?
Pamela.
Pamela, I'm sorry. We are here to talk about their new album, as well as some other, whatever we kind of go with. I actually was just watching a video of you guys, the video for Desert Song, just a little bit ago, and as well as a cover that you guys did of Carpet of the Sun. Very cool stuff. And for those that don't know, Randy George is, of course, the bass player for the band Ajalon, the Neal Morse band. I'm sure we can keep going. The list of accolades goes on and on. And for you, Patricia, what have you done before this, if anything?
Well, I took about a 15-year break from music to take care of two very sick parents. I did my master's in music, my bachelor's in music composition. I've been a guitarist since I was 12 years old. I write music, I sing. And
Very cool.
I had a lot of bands in LA back in the day, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Nothing you've ever heard of.
Well, so just out of curiosity, what prompted this EP that's out now? Was that something you guys have been talking about for a while, or is that kind of new? Or
Well, we've been working on it for probably for a while because you know, some of the music, a couple of the songs, well, even 3 of them, were all ideas I've had floating around for years.
yeah,
And I demoed up a couple of them a while back when we were in Fullerton. And I had been trying to get somebody to write lyrics and sing on them. Just floating it around to see, you know, if anything, you know, would stick. Of course, we were sitting and listening to it one day, and she started singing ideas, coming up with these melodies and vocalizations for a lot of this material. And so it's like, wow, that actually sounds really cool. That's a cool vibe for this. And so ultimately, I think what we did is, we sat down with the material and just started fleshing out vocal parts. And once we started to really see how the vocals would progress and where they took you in the music, then we were able to, you know, rearrange the music to fit, you know, the song a little better and write lyrics to it and vocal bits. And so, you know, we did that with one song and it turned out really, really nice. And then we delved into another one, which had kind of the same thing. And we just sort of found things that were there that, you know, Pam was like, we should use this. We should do something with this. And she had some ideas as well. And we sat down and she recorded a few bits and pieces of some of her ideas. And then I started writing around that. And so, you know, really, it's really very much a collaboration. And, you know, they're mainly songs that we've had around or that we, you know, wrote for this. And we just felt it was time to get it out because of the pandemic. We thought this was the right time to just release it. So we figured we'd just release it as an EP. And then based on how well it does, we'll consider, you know, starting on a full album.
very cool. So as a guitar player, I will say, watching the video for Desert Song, you're doing some interesting voicings and singing over top of it, which is my biggest crutch. I can't sing and play anything other than simple bar chords at the same time. So watching you sing some of that, and especially some of the words in that song, are not easy words to sing, even if you're not playing an instrument. You know? So what, you know, of course, my question is, how do you separate the brain power to handle those two aspects?
If I think about it too much, I fail miserably. It's just automatic, you know. But I have to know what I'm, you know. It's hard to do if I don't know the song. So if I've got the melodies on my instrument and my vocals in my head, it's not a problem. And
Sure.
I was pushed to sing and play when I was about 14. The band didn't have anybody to sing. They said, hey, we need somebody to sing Blondie and play it on guitar. I'm like, okay. I never did it before, and I just started doing it, and I never stopped. So pretty much, you know, I can play almost anything and sing to a degree.
Yeah. So Randy, I think a lot of people don't know that you are more of a multi-instrumentalist as well. Most people just think of you as a bass player. And of course, on the last, you know, I know the joke was on the last Neal Morse album, on The Great Adventure, was that you had your vocal line in, was it Vanity Fair, that they were joking about that on tour?
Right.
So seeing, you know, I actually showed a friend of mine the other day the Thoughts Part 5 video, where you're taking that solo at the end, and he was like, that's the same guy that plays bass? And he was just shocked that you were doing something very different than what, you know, of course, someone would equate to you as a bass player. What would, you know, for you, what do you consider yourself? Do you consider yourself a bass player, or are you more of a multi-instrumentalist, or?
I've been playing long enough to where I can claim that I play any one of those instruments.
Sure.
But the real thing that makes you the authentic thing is it's more experience than it is that you know how to play.
Yeah.
Anybody can play the instrument and even do it well, but performing music in front of people where you really have to deliver to a completely different level that you can't really comprehend in your practice room. And there's no other way to get it except by getting out in front of people and playing. And that will, especially when you're having to play stuff like Neal Morse and stuff and all the fiddlies that were probably written on the keyboard. So now you got to figure out how to play it on a bass, which is not how any bass or guitar player would normally play.
Sure.
They're going to play like a bass player or a guitar player. They're not going to play like a keyboard player. I suppose guitar being the last instrument that, for me to say that I've sort of become proficient on, was well after I played a lot of keyboards. I started playing keyboards at 6, so even well before playing bass. So unfortunately, I think I approached the guitar a bit like a keyboard player instead of a guitar player, because I didn't grow up playing guitar in bands and doing all that, which would have given me a much broader foundation in the guitar world. But that doesn't mean I can't do cool things with a guitar. So it's really, to me, it's all a matter of how it comes out in the end product and how it all works together that really matters. So really, as a player, I think I bring the most to the table as a bass player because I've got the most experience as a bass player. And that's even really, when Neal and I had this conversation about what exactly do I do in the very beginning, I kind of left it open to any one of those instruments, whatever he needed. Finally, he just said, well, what we really need is a bass player. And so it was like, well, okay. And then I had to go back and explain, okay, well, obviously, I bring the most to the table as a bass player. You don't have to look too far to find a better keyboard player or a better guitar player than me. You really don't. There's so many amazing players out there, known or unknown. There's plenty of really great players, and they're great for different reasons. But you don't have to look too far to find one that's better than I am, at least on a technical level. Everything's subjective, You can say, oh, I think so-and-so is better than so-and-so, but they're really only different from each other. So anyway, I would say that the Neal Morse band sort of defined me as a bass player who has this sound, plays his music, and just, it's a language that I helped develop. And it's like Chris Squire, and yes, there's really no substitute for it, but they also really didn't do a lot of other stuff. Chris played in Yes mostly. Sure, he did a few other things, but really nothing. He didn't go off and join another band, So, it's like, I think in that respect, I played the bass player and the bass player character in the movie, really. That's really what it boils down to. But yeah, sure, I can do a lot of other things,
Well, I think that adds to what you bring as a bass player as well, the fact that you can do those other things. Because the one thing, and I've said this for years about Neal's stuff, especially his solo stuff, is there's something about it that makes you feel good, whether it's the vocal melodies or it's something else that's kind of intangible when you first listen to it. And then listening to Desert Song this morning, I realized what at least some of it is, and it's the melodies you bring as a bass player. Because a lot of bass players don't bring anything, I don't want to say don't bring anything melodic, because there are some that do, but there's something about your bass playing that definitely fits very well with a vocalist and makes it adds to that feel good moment. Because I was sitting here, kind of had like one of those mornings, Memphis, we have some new rules that came into place last night where we have to, if we go in public, we have to wear a mask at all times or we can get arrested. Not arrested, but they can fine us and do this kind of stuff. So it's definitely like a George Orwell kind of moment, going on right now. So I was kind of like, kind of feeling a little bit off today, and then listening to Desert Song, the smile came back, and it was like, okay, there we go, And But I think your bass playing, as much as this, and I'm not saying this because we're on the phone, because I probably have said this to 20 or 30 other people over the last year. There's something about the melodies that like your bass playing brings, and something about the melodies that overall that you seem to work very well in, that help bring that feel good moment, So I, take that for what you will.
Well, I'll take it as a compliment.
Hopefully.
I think that's a good observation. But I think it also plays into, the real motivation behind what I do. And I realized, and it took me a lot of years to realize this, especially the more that I really didn't play like other bass players, I felt like, am I missing something here? Should I be able to do that? I thought so many people already do that and do it well.
Yeah.
The fact is that I do what I do and not a lot of people do it. So I might as well just be the best at it.
Sure.
Obviously, prog fans are the ones who are going to love it. But I also have realized that it's because musically I have more to say than what the bass typically would do. And that's always, I think for years I was kind of just stuck with just the bass. And that's sort of developed that way. I wanted to develop more in the music. I wanted to develop the keyboards, the guitar, the vocal lines, but it was all coming out on a bass. And that's probably how I ended up there.
Yeah.
The world, it spins around. I can't restrain. Grab it, stomp it, slow it down. Let me see tomorrow. Yesterday I was myself. Now it's gray. And the Calico man will come and take you away. The Calico man is wearing his crown, keeps going around and around. The Calico man is wearing his crown, keeps going around and around. You never finish twice when it's all gone and you roll the dice. Another sacrifice, and you hang it up to cut it down. Can't deny the pain inside. What can I do? I can't be loved, I can't be free, and it's just beginning. One night you're reconciled, you can't stay, and the Calico man will come and take you away. The Calico
normally I would ask you guys, what are the tour plans? Of course, we know that's not happening right now.
You have one date on the calendar.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, as far as traveling somewhere to do a live concert, Morse Fest is happening in September.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I'll be going to Nashville, and I'll be doing that. Pam and I do have, we're playing this Sunday morning at a coffee house in Scottsdale.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So we're starting to get back out there, and it's going to be sort of a one step at a time, and just see how things go and work it from there.
Yeah. So beyond touring, I know you guys have done a few of these, or at least one that I know of for sure, of these online streaming kind of concerts. As someone, for both of you, as people who've been in the industry to whatever extent you've been, what do you think? Do you think that's part of our future now, or do you think that's something that's kind of got a limited shelf life while we're under this pandemic situation?
Well, I think that the industry came to an abrupt halt. Yeah. You've got guys who have been playing all their lives and touring, and all of a sudden, boom, just comes to a grinding halt. That energy has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And once, they realized, well, we're stuck at home. How do we do this? People are just doing music from home however they can. I've been particularly impressed with the Doobie Brothers home quarantine stuff because it's so cool. It's them. It sounds like them. They don't necessarily have, all the elements, but it's just cool to see that even those guys are doing that. Neil Diamond, Tommy Shaw. I've seen them all doing. They're just sitting at home in their pajamas playing music, and you never get to see that side of them. So in a way, it's been really interesting to see a different side of very well-known musicians that really only had ever appeared professional when you see them. You just never get to see them at home relaxed and goofing around like that. And I find that really interesting. I know that when we did our streaming thing, people really loved it. And we really had a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And if that's the way it's going to be, then we found that unless you want to keep playing the same songs over and over, you got to work really hard to keep bringing in new songs. Otherwise, it seems like it's just a rerun.
Yeah.
We're playing the same songs as we did last time, and I'm not sure if that's that interesting to people or not. I suppose if you were coming to see us live locally, it'd be similar because we would play. But the whole point of what we do is to be live locally, because the odds of anybody seeing you more than once in a row, are very small. So you may be playing the same songs every time, but they're hearing you for the first time.
Sure.
So it does, when it's streaming, that doesn't really apply. You expect it to be something different each time.
Yeah.
So either we do shorter stream, time, but we spend a lot of time learning songs in between those.
We'd play for 2.5 hours each week on Saturdays when the COVID started and everybody was on lockdown.
Wow. It's an interesting, I heard an interesting take on it. Corey Glover from Living Color was talking about this in an interview he did yesterday, where he was talking about how this is a time, if you haven't taken advantage of learning something new while we've had this time, whether it's for him trying to learn how to play guitar or him learning about recording and that kind of thing. For someone who's never been, someone who's probably not been home for more than, 3 months at a time since 1989, it's, I'm sure that's an interesting experience for him. I've been learning about the more the camera side of things, because I never thought about filming, because you always just hired someone if you were going to do that. But for the radio show, we haven't been on the air doing our normal live radio show almost since the pandemic started. So I've been doing video interviews and trying to learn the editing aspect of it, because I've never edited videos before. And it's been a learning curve, but it seems to be working for other aspects of my life as well. But so I think it's great that you guys, the one that I saw that you guys did for the Prog at Home, I turned it on just as you guys were going on, and I probably knew you were playing, but it was like, oh, hey, look, it's Randy, and but it was an interesting thing, and you guys, you definitely seem to have the video aspect of it handled, in terms of it didn't look like some of the guys where you look at it and you think it's someone holding a cell phone.
It
Which-
was.
It was our cell phone.
But it looked good, And, or if you've seen Devin, I don't know if you saw Devin Townsend's quarantine videos that he did, where he actually had an Xbox controller, and that's how he was changing all the video cameras that he was using. And then he showed a behind the scenes thing, and like one of the cameras was connected to like an oscillating fan, and that's how he was getting different camera angles. And it was the biggest DIY kind of thing you've ever seen, but it worked really well. Yeah, it was quite.
We thought.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like when he showed I've been talking to my bass player who works in computers, and I was like, oh, maybe he'll be able to figure out what he did. And he was like, we watched the video where Devin actually broke down how he was doing all these cameras and how he was switching it via the same program that I have for broadcasting, OBS, which is a free program. But he's actually automating his cameras, and I don't have that technological bent in me, But so it's interesting to see like people being very creative, even in a behind the scenes way, or like you said, learning new songs, because it's different when you go to a concert where the 1,500 or 2,000 people that are there in that town that night see that show, and then when you move on to the next town, you have another 1,500, 2,000, 5,000, however many people are there that you're performing in front of, and they get to see a whole nother show. Even if it's the same song, it's still a different show. So I think that's a real. I have a feeling that even when concerts do start back up, whatever time frame they're looking at, I think this live streaming from home thing, it kind of opened the doors up for people, and I think it's going to do some different things. Like you were talking about the Tommy Shaw one, where he did "Fooling Yourself," I think, and he's sitting on his couch with his dog singing along with him at the end. And you never would have seen that in the 70s or the 80s. And that's just a really cool, interesting take on things. So I know the one song that Randy we had played last year here on Radio Memphis. Is that on the EP? Because it doesn't seem like it's the same. I can't pull up the computer our tracks from there.
Yes, it's. I think it's
Calico Man?
Calico Man. Yeah.
Was that under a different title? Because I'm trying to remember the titles, and I like I said, I can't pull up our screen from the system, but
I don't remember. I thought it was Calico Man.
okay.
But if it was in fact the Desert Song, it's possible it might have had a different title because it was originally Stars and Moonlit Skies.
That's okay. So it was Desert Song that we played, but it was just under a different title.
But, the Desert Song is just easier to say and remember.
Yeah.
Stars and Moonlit Skies is just for the song you're leading off with, you want something easy to remember. And I'm sure there's probably 100 local artists who have a song called the Desert Song.
Yeah.
But so what?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely you. Like I read the one review, I think it was on Sonic Perspectives, and they went through like a list of different bands from like the 70s. Say you guys, it was like an unwritten song from that time frame, and I can maybe see the comparison to some of the bands they compared it to, because they compared it to Renaissance, and of course you guys do a cover of a Renaissance song. But I think what makes your voice different compared to that is there's definitely more of a your voice isn't sharp. Like Annie Haslam's voice, I've always felt had a sharpness to it. There's definitely a breathy lightness to your voice that makes it feel easier to access. I don't know, maybe it's just me, because like I said, I always feel like Neal's music always made me feel like it always makes me feel in a good mood after I listen to it, and it's because his voice is easy to listen to. It's not like listening to someone screaming in a metal song. And, you know, I felt the same way, like listening to your stuff. It just made me feel like I can listen to it and it feels kind of home.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you know, and that's, you know, I'm a fan of Annie Haslam. It's nothing that not that I'm not. It's just I always felt there was a sharpness to her voice that I didn't want to listen to it at extended periods of time. I don't know. You know, so very cool stuff. I know, Randy, you also have of course, the Cover to Cover album, which Roy had sent me last week, and I'm really digging a lot of that. It's interesting. I think the track listing, I think was, for anyone expecting it to be a typical proggy track listing, I think they might be a little surprised because it's definitely some interesting. I don't want to say obscure because I think all the songs are known to a greater extent, but you know, you guys doing "Let Love Rules" by Lenny Kravitz, and you know, is it "Be My Baby" by Badfinger?
Baby Blue.
Baby Blue. And because I actually had to look that up. I listened to it and I knew the song, but I couldn't remember who the artist was. And I'm like, Badfinger. I should, you know, and so it's interesting choices. It's not like, you know, like the other ones, I think, you know, not that they weren't interesting choices as well, but because they were, but there was, you know, more of the songs I think people just knew. And this time I think there's some things that maybe, unless you're like an old school, you know, pop punk kind of fan, you might not know some of these songs. I think it's a really cool choice. You know.
Yeah, there was definitely an interesting selection, but you know, mostly it really came down to, you know, it had to be songs Mike was pretty familiar with already.
Sure.
Because of the limited amount of time he had to track the drums, which was right at the end of the transatlantic sessions, which I think was December. And so I threw out Baker Street, but other than that, I think the rest were just, you know, ones that Neal and Mike came up with that they both were willing to do, and Mike knew well enough not to have to spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
Really is how it ended up. Of course, you know, it's just all a matter of agreeing on which songs, and that happened remotely. And then, of course, you know, Neal did his stuff, and I did my stuff, and then we got the guest stuff. We had a few guest appearances on the album.
Yeah.
We did the Yesing, you know, the Yes song. We had John Davidson on vocals.
Very cool.
Which was basically, you know, we go to John Anderson first, and he declined. And so we knew John would be the next best choice, and I knew he'd be willing to do it. Also, Neal didn't want to do the keyboards on that, so my friend Jonathan Sindelman, the guy that's in the Carpet of the Sun video, he did the keyboards on it, and then Pam did the Chris Squire vocal.
Oh.
So there was a few guests, and I did the keyboards on Baker Street. Neal also didn't want to, you know, do the keyboards on that song. And he did a Hammond organ bit, just you know, just a pad kind of track. But yeah, I did all the other keyboards, and yeah. So really, that's really what it is. It was just driven bit by circumstance. Otherwise, we might, who knows? Yeah, when we're in the room all week talking about it, and then, you know, 5 days later, we actually get down to it. We've had plenty of time to sort of go through and weed out and just, you know, discuss and weed out what is off the table, what's on the table.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Neal has to be able to sing it. That's really comes down.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like I said, you know, of course, Life on Mars, I think is, you know, for most people, they're very familiar with that song. You know, I know we actually recently did a Bowie tribute kind of show. We were supposed to do a full thing where we did Bowie, Queen, and Rush, and that got canceled because of the pandemic. But doing the Bowie stuff, it's one of those situations where I always, as a kid, thought Bowie was simple music because it always seemed it. But there's actually a lot more to it than, especially from a bass player perspective. The bass playing is never the typical root notes, like you would expect in that kind of music. It's definitely always something different going on.
Yeah.
And some of the chord things definitely don't fit what you would think of as typical pop music. But so very cool. That was one of my favorites to hear. And Let Love Rule by Lenny Kravitz, I think, is a great track, and it's very fitting, whether you guys thought about it or not, in the way life is right now. I think a lot of, of course, there's a lot of tensions and all that kind of stuff, but it's a very fitting kind of song in the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest question I have about this is, so as musicians, we always are, at least most musicians I know always are writing and always have new stuff that they're working on. And I know this album just came out, so I'm not expecting you guys to have another album written. But is there any stockpile of music or new music that you've been working on since the EP? Anything you guys, not that I'm asking you to play anything or talk about anything specific, but is it something you think you want to do another one of these in the near future?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's bits and pieces that need to come together. He's been busy working on Neal's new solo album, Sola Gradia. So he's been doing a lot of video work and stuff. So half of our pandemic break has been, working on that for him and stuff associated.
Yeah, there's videos for cover to cover and videos, then our videos, and now new videos from the new one. So it's that's kept us busy. But
He's been working, and I've been getting tons of little bits and pieces to throw together. Yes, when we sit down and finally can do it again. Now we're getting ready for a real show, kind of. A coffee house, but we'll take it.
Yeah, right now, I mean, like they came out last week and they told us we could start booking shows again here in Memphis.
Oh, good.
And then on Tuesday they took that away. So we'll see where things happen, but I know Nashville, they opened up a couple weeks ago and things seem to be kind of running pretty smoothly there at the moment. I was excited that Neal was doing Morris Fest still, even with all this going on. Is he doing most of that as a like a streaming thing and just a few people, or is it a full bore?
Oh no.
There's only 100 people allowed in the room.
Totally. Okay. Including musicians.
Including band, crew, and staff. So there's 70 tickets that have gone on sale. And that way they can ensure that, the seating can be properly distanced. And then the concert itself takes place in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
But it goes out to the world in the evening as a stream. And for the people attending, evidently we're doing a live commentary during the streaming.
Oh.
For the people in attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not just watching a rerun of it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. I don't really have anything to do with the planning. They tell me, and I'm either in or I'm not.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's interesting times. Like as this is all unfolding, like someone, I heard someone say we're living history now, and I was like, okay, don't go too far. But, the more that this is going on, we really are. This is a very unique situation, and I think being in it's not good for the music industry, as you said earlier, Randy. Everything pretty much halted, and now they're talking about 2021 being the first time that real concerts are going to be able to take place. I think that's the first time that's ever happened in the history of the music industry.
As long as it does. As long as it does. That's the main thing. Okay, we may have lost a year, but if that's what it took and we can continue, then great. you just don't want to get bogged down in
Sure.
fear that's really unsubstantiated. You want to put you want to have something to hope for. You want to believe that, you'll be able to get back to it, and there's really no reason why you shouldn't be able to. So.
Yeah. No, I think I think it's just it might be a good reset.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that have been, taking things for granted. I'm not saying, not taken for granted might not be the right way to put it, but especially for regional musicians who are trying to build their way up, this might have been a good game changer for some of them, because I think the industry is of course going to change along with all the things that are changing right now. I could be wrong. I'm a DJ, but we at Radio Memphis, like I said, we've been taking a break, and it's I'm starting to really miss my Monday nights of being locked in a room playing new music. Roy's been stockpiling me with music for the last month. I actually think last weekend alone he sent me 11 new albums to put into our playlist.
Nice.
The Morse Portnoy George album was one of them. The new Haken album, the new Steve Hackett album. So it's actually given me a lot of music to put into my Google Play as I go for walks in the morning and walk around listening to. And the one thing I noticed that with the Morse Portnoy George album is the whole anthology is, while I had those other two albums, it was interesting going back and revisiting some of the tracks on there, because I forgot how much I like some of your cover versions of those songs. But I think at Radio Memphis, Randy, you were the first musician to do an interview for the Progtime show. I will always go back to you when it's time to do something, and we're getting ready to relaunch the radio, the Progtime show in the next couple weeks. So what I'm doing over the next couple weeks is I'm getting a bunch of interviews together that I can start using to help build that back up. And like I said, you and the Neal Morris Band have really, I don't want to say validated, because the show had validation in terms of what we were trying to do, but you guys gave us the validation from people in the industry, and I really, I always appreciate that. And I actually got invited Diana to be part of the interview today. She's actually dealing, she's still dealing with her health issues. She had been at the doctor's when I messaged her earlier to see if she wanted to hop on the Zoom call with us. So I know she, because she always asks me if I talk to you and how you're doing and all that kind of stuff. And we send love to the Neal Morris Band all the time. I always, we play A Love That Never Dies a lot on the radio show. And it's me and Diana will sit with our cell phones and hold up our fake lighters and sing that song at the top of our lungs. Luckily, the microphones are muted at the time when that's being played, but we do it, and it's definitely been coming down to see you guys for the Similitude of the Green tour, and then going up to St. Louis and catching you guys on Great Adventure was really cool for the station. Sure.
Well, thanks. We're very happy to be part of it, and anything we can do.
Yeah, we're hopefully, I'm knocking on wood as I say this, we're hopefully going to be back on the air first week of July. And then, because that's the anniversary of the radio station. And then I'm trying, and, my goal, I said this all leading up to January 1st, was I was going to start going out and doing remotes from live shows more often.
Oh, cool.
Of course, I should never have said it on the air, because, that meant something got in the way. and we had a big block with this whole thing. But hopefully what I can do, I know it's not going to happen for Morris Fest because of how limited everything is in there. But hopefully by 2021 now, we can start coming back out and doing stuff at live shows. Now that I have some camera equipment that I can actually do interviews better than what I have been, we'll be able to do some better stuff like that. But I want to thank you two for taking time out of your day. It's been great talking to you. And if you have not checked out this album or anything that Randy's part of, I recommend it all. You need to. and I will be playing. The Desert Song appears at the beginning of this video. What's the other song that you would like me to play later? Is it Calico? Is that the name of the song?
Calico Man.
Calico Man?
That goes over good with the prog audience.
All right, I'll be playing that. And I think I might throw in the cover of Beaker Street at the very end. And I'll include links to their videos so you guys can check out some different things that they got going on. If you have not checked out the Prog from Home concert, they actually appear there. And is there any other live video at this point, or is that the only live video that you guys have?
Yeah, that's the only live video per se.
Okay.
You know,
We had to do it during COVID, so nobody could come and help, so we couldn't do a longer song with full-on drums and everything.
Yeah. But we'll definitely have links to different things from these guys. I think this is it's a timely album, I think, because of, like I said, the feel-good nature. Everyone needs to feel good right now, because I know, I can't tell you how many people you run into right now, and just the kind of sadness that just seems to be permeating everyone. And so I recommend, anything that can make you feel better in times like this is a good thing. And I think this album's definitely, I don't want to be cliche and say a feel-good album, but it is kind of a feel-good album.
good. I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, I think it goes along with, as weird as it sounds, like the power pop stuff on the Morse, Portnoy, George stuff. Not that you guys are doing power pop, but it has that same kind of uplifting element to it. And there's something about that. I mean, and maybe it's that, I think I always joke, I think I was born 10 to 15 years too late. I was born in 75, and so all the music that I love was being created around that time, and if not before that. So I always I think that there's a lot of feel-good nature in that music. So, but very cool. Randy, thank you so much. Thank you, Pamela, and we will talk in the near future, maybe live at some point. That would be great. And once the Radio Memphis show's back on, I'll make sure I play this on as often as I can. Might not be weekly basis, depending on how much stockpile of music Roy sends me over the next month. But definitely we'll be playing more of this, and I really do appreciate you guys taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your day. And
thanks, Phil.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Winding your way down Baker Street, light in your head and dead on your feet. Well, another crazy day. You drink the night away and forget about everything. This city desert makes you feel so cold. It's got so many people, but it's got no soul. And it's taken you so long to find out you were wrong when you thought it held everything. You used to think that it was so easy. You used to say that it was so easy. But you're trying now. Another year and then you'll be happy. Just one more year and then you'll be happy. But you're crying now.
door, he's got that look on his face, and he asks you where you been. You tell him who you seen, and you talk about anything. You see, he's got this dream about buying some land. He's gonna give up the booze and the